Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're on lesson 24, chapter 24, which is responding to events and using Windows. What we're going to learn in this lesson is how event handlers work, how event handlers relate to objects, how to create an event handler, how to detect mouse and keyboard actions, how to use onClick to change the appearance of a div, how to access and use window object hierarchy with JavaScript. We're going to learn how to delay a script's actions by using timeouts and how to display alerts, confirmations, and prompts. So understanding event handlers. As we learned in lesson 20, programs don't have to execute in order. We learned that JavaScript programs can detect events and react to them. Events are things that happen within the scope of the browser. The user clicks a button, the mouse pointer moves, or a web page finishes loading from the server are just some examples. So various events enable our scripts to respond to the mouse, the keyboard, and other circumstances. Events are the key methods JavaScript uses to make web documents interactive. So you can create a script that detects and responds to these events. And when you do, this is called an event handler. As we learned in lesson 21, that JavaScript uses a set of objects to store information about the various parts of a web page: buttons, links, images, windows, and so on. An event can happen in more than one place. For example, the user can click any of the links on a page and such event associated with an object. Each event has a name, for example, on mouse over, on click. So we're going to talk about creating event handlers. You don't need a script tag to invoke an event handler. You just need the event name and code to invoke the event handler as an attribute of an individual HTML tag. So the example in your book gives you a link, and inside the link, it says on mouse over equals alert. So when you mouse over it, it will show you an alert. And you can define event handlers with JavaScript. Rather than specify an event handler script each time you want to invoke it, you can use JavaScript to assign specific function as the default event handler for an event. This enables you to set event handlers conditionally, turn them on and off, and dynamically change the function that handles that event. So your book goes through and gives you an example on how to do that. You can support multiple event handlers. And your book goes through and tells you that there's actually many events that you can listen for. So some of the most commonly used events that you can listen for are focus, blur, click, double click, key down, key up, key press, mouse over, mouse out, mouse move, mouse down, mouse up, and load. There are a lot more events that you can listen, and you can see them all if you search them online. But you can also remove event listeners when you're done with them. You can use the remove event listener method, as with the add event listener method. You can simply attach it to the element you want to stop listening to. And it talks about using the event object. When an event occurs, you may need to know more about the event in order for your script to perform different actions. For example, for a keyboard event, you might want to know which key is pressed. So the DOM includes an event object that provides this type of information. Then goes through and talks about using mouse events. We've already seen mouse over, and we've already seen on click, and your book gives you an example of using these event handlers, how you can create a script that displays information about mouse button events and determines which button is pressed. And then goes through and shows you how to use keyboard events. JavaScript can detect keyboard actions. The main event handler for this purpose is key press, which occurs when a key is pressed and released or held down. As with mouse buttons, you can detect the down and up parts of a key press with the key down and key up. You may find it useful, like I said before, to find out which key the user pressed. Well, you can find this out with the event object, which is sent to the event handler when this event occurs. The event.which property stores the ASCII, the ASCII character code for the key that was pressed. So the display key function receives the event from the event handler and stores it in the variable. Then it assigns a key code from the e.which property, in this example in your book. And then the remaining lines of the function convert the key code to a character and add it to a paragraph of the document. So you can see the example of displaying typed characters in your book and work that out yourself to try it. You can also use the load and unload events. So if you're using load, this event occurs when the current page, including all of its images, finishes loading from the server. The load event is related to the window object, and to define it, you use an event handler in the body tag. Your book then goes through and gives an example of using click to change the appearance of a div. So we already learned that click events can be used to invoke all sorts of actions, but this is using a click to show or hide content. This is a rather complex example, and it goes through step by step as what's going on in each section. You can use the element IDs, and when the user clicks certain elements based on their IDs, the visibility of it and other elements changes based on the commands in the click event listener function. You can also control windows with objects. We learned about history, document, and location are all child objects of the window object. But let's take a look at the window object itself. So properties of the window object are window.closed, window.name, window.opener, .screen, .self. So we can actually create a new window. We can display a new document, for example, a pop-up advertisement, instructions for a game. We can also create a window for specific purposes such as navigation windows. You can create a new browser window using the window.open method, and it gives you an example of a typical statement like this in chapter 24. You can also use window.close to close windows, and the book works through and gives you an example of an HTML document that uses JavaScript to enable you to create and close windows. You can also move and resize windows. One of the most important things in this chapter is using timeouts. JavaScript has a built-in function. It's also referred to as sleeping. The window.setTimeout method enables you to specify a time delay and a command that will execute after the delay passes. So the setTimeout method has two parameters. The first is a JavaScript statement or a group of statements enclosed in quotation marks, and the second is the time to wait in milliseconds. The example in your book shows you how to use a timeout to update a page every 2 seconds. And then at the end of this chapter, it talks about displaying dialog boxes. We already used an alert. But to understand this, the window object includes these three methods that are useful for displaying messages. Window.alert displays an alert dialog box. Window.confirm displays a confirmation dialog box. And window.prompt displays a message and prompts the user for input. So just like how we use window.alert, we can use the window.confirm and window.prompt, and the example shows you how to do this. So coming up next, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you some of these examples that we talked about. Mouse click. Now this one, you click the mouse on the test link, and message will indicate which button was clicked. So we have this function, mouse status, and it says, tracks this window event button. Now, if the left, middle, right, or unknown one is clicked, then it will tell you in a message, we're creating this event listener, click, object to add event listener mouse down, displays the mouse status. So right now I'm on a laptop, I only have a left click right now. So when I click this, it says mouse down left, mouse up left, click. If I hold it, you see the mouse down and then let go, mouse up, click. So if I was able to right click or middle click, it would have different options. That's how you can get a mouse click with an event listener. Displaying key presses. I want to display the typed characters. This document includes a simple script that displays the keys you type as a new paragraph below. Type a few keys and try it. So we're saying we have a function here, display key. Takes a parameter. Which key was pressed? Well, key code equals e.which. Character equals string dot from car code key code. Find the object for the destination paragraph. So var keys paragraph equals document.getElementID keys, which is here. Add the character to the paragraph. Keys paragraph.innerHTML plus equal character. And then document.addEventListener key press display key. So if I'm here, I load this page. If I type in G E O R G. So it's just hitting the text that I type in. If I reload, it goes away. I can type in any number, any text, and it will just go through and display anything in between those paragraph tags. Now let's look at a more complex example of some images using buttons and our JavaScript. Add some event listeners to click and adds a function. So if we say show elevation, hide elevation, show photos from the top, hide photos. Say Columbia River, brings us to an external link. Next example, create a new window. So this creates a new window. We're going to use the buttons below to open and close windows using JavaScript. So here we have 3 buttons, giving them a type of button, an ID, use the text. So now what we're going to do is document.getElementById, open new, which is this one, add event listener, click, Call this function. New win equals window.open. New window. Toolbar no, status no. And we're going to set the width and height. This one is going to close. Add event listener, click that function. New win.close. So let's see how this works. I'm going to open new window. It opens a window 200 by 100. If I click close window, it will close it. Let's see if we can set it to 400 by 300. Save it. Reload. Create new window. Creates a window a little bigger. Close new window. I don't want to close the main window because I have a bunch of examples open. So this is how you can create closed windows. Next example, you can move or resize a window. You can work through this example. Example of a timeout. This is useful. So we're going to restart. The counter is at 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's stop this. Restart, stop. All right. This counter will update every 2 seconds. We'll press restart or stop to restart or stop the count. So you have these two buttons, ID restart, ID stop. There's the text. So we have this counter. We call update function 2 seconds after the first load. So timeout ID equals window.set timeout. Call this update and at 2 seconds, which is set timeout takes in 2 parameters. We're going to call this function update. So we're going to add one to the counter. We're going to increment the counter. Text field equals document.getElement by ID, show text. Text field.innerHTML is the counter is now at plus the counter. And then set another timeout for the next count. And we're going to set event listeners for the buttons. So if I restart, stop, restart, and then alerts, confirmations, and prompts. So we can use the buttons below to test dialogues in JavaScript. We have 3 buttons, alert, confirmation, and prompt, with corresponding ID. In our JavaScript, we have document.getElement by ID, alert. We're going to add an event listener to that button. We're going to say click. When it's clicked, we're going to call this function. Alert value equals window.alert. This is a test alert. When confirmed, window.confirm, and then window.prompt. So if I say display an alert, this is a test alert. Display a confirmation. Would you like to confirm? Display a prompt. Enter text. This is the default. So that's how you can use window.alert, window.confirm, or window.prompt. All right, I hope those examples helped. Coming up next, we have lesson 24, PowerPoint presentations, so stay tuned.